guys, welcome to the video. John Bodine here with Redemptive Psych, and today we're talking about the needs of the ESTJ, continuing our series going over the 16 types and their needs. Now remember that the needs are broken up into two parts: every function, every archetype, really every major aspect of a person, as far as I can tell, is broken up into the needs that we typically have, which is to receive, needing rest, needing food, etc. But we also have needs to give, okay? Just as TE hero, for example, needs to be recognized and given opportunity for authority, which we'll talk about shortly, they also need the opportunity to shape other people's minds and to give something out, okay? Every function, every archetype has this duality to it. If you ESTJs want to investigate this further, the 5 Love Languages book by Gary Chapman and parts of the 4 Loves by C.S. Lewis have this concept, this very important concept. Now, we're just talking about 3 archetypes here. These are the archetypes, the 3 that I believe have the most impact in this conversation, so we're going to be a little bit more efficient with just focusing on these 3 for the series. Now, starting with TE hero, the hero function has a binary need of expression, first of all, because it's our powerhouse. We like to use our hero. It's our strongest. It's our favorite tool. We need space to express and use it, and ideally being in an environment that appreciates the ability from our hero. And that goes into the second point here, is recognition. You know, in order for people to really allow you, encourage you to express your hero, they need to recognize the value of it. Unless you're like a child and they're just, accommodating you. If people recognize the value of your hero function, they are much more likely to help you and allow you to express it. Now with TE hero, the needs here, the text in blue is what this function can give. The needs that they have to give, meaning that it works best when we receive it well, and then the text in black is what they need from us or from other people. Now for TE hero, what they provide, first of all, they are extremely effective, okay? ESTJs are often part of institutions, whether educational, sports, charity. They do all sorts of things. They're in a lot of different places. They are very effective, okay? TE hero with an awareness of tasks and how to get things done. With their SI parent, which we're not talking about today, with their memory and their work ethic, they are extremely gifted at getting things done. With that, they provide a stability, not only with taking care of the problems that need to be taken care of, but building out organization and building out order. That's what TE hero does. It builds out order and structure. They also, ESTJs uniquely have a ton of initiative. They are often very ambitious, even though they usually like to work more with people and being part of an institution, whereas the ENTJ kind of likes that, but likes to go on their own a bit more. ESTJs have a lot of initiative within the group or the team or the pursuit that they have. They often go out of their way to work overtime, to go above and beyond, to deliver the absolute best that they can. And third here, they provide education. TE hero is really, really good at understanding the beliefs and the perspectives of other people and how to speak to that person. Okay, like I can, after learning some about them, I can determine kind of their level of knowledge, and I can provide some input, some steps, and some guidance through these steps to help them succeed. A lot of ESTJs are teachers and coaches, partly for this reason, that they not only establish a plan, but they provide education and guidance to others through supplying extroverted thinking input, through challenging their perspectives, and mainly through expanding their perspectives. Have you thought about it this way? Consider this piece of information. Consider that piece of information. They are great at research and implementation. Okay, so what do they need to receive? Okay, authority. Authority is a big thing. It is their big drive, one of their big drives. They want to feel important, just as a lot of people do, but the opportunity for management, for making big decisions. With TE hero specifically, they have a sense of how to get things done and how things should go, also guided by Se Critic, of their high standards for making it look nice, for making sure it's done right. So authority is their is what they search for. Now, it doesn't mean you just give them power, because that's not necessarily smart, but knowing that that's kind of what they're seeking, and having the opportunity to have a voice and to make decisions, you can empower them to do that, even in small ways, and that's like food for their soul. They kind of need that. And second here, it's related somewhat, but it's a little different. Opportunity for advancement. ESTJs, especially when they're younger, they're usually very ambitious, and with a lot of initiative, a lot of desire to prove their effectiveness. So if they're going to be part of your team, for example, or part of your family, it's going to kind of look different with the family. But let's just keep it to career stuff. Showing them opportunities for advancement. They don't mind working hard. Like, they might work the hardest of anyone, actually, as long as they feel that their investment is going to pay off with more achievement and more authority and more advancement. So giving them opportunities to advance, empowering them as they prove themselves, that's sort of the currency that they work in. Now, just in general, all the extroverted thinkers, they kind of need to be respected and to be regarded in a certain light. It's not necessarily that they need to be liked as much, but just having a general respect for their ability, that will go a long way, particularly with the TE hero. So we could put in respect here at the bottom. Okay, next is FI inferior, the place where they feel unworthy, where they don't know where to invest in, where they don't know if they're a good person. The inferior needs a combination of reassurance and exploration. Reassurance is helping them recognize the times when they use it in a positive way, and exploration, when the ESTJ risks expressing themselves in the FI inferior way, giving them that space to express and helping them pull that out a little bit, allows the inferior to come out of its shell and start exploring the space a bit more. Now, what does FI inferior offer? Okay, the first thing I said is softness, and ESTJs, you guys might hate to hear this, but ESTJs are often looked at as kind of like a bull or an ox, like very sturdy, very reliable, kind of stoic and professional, and kind of brash and blunt, and sometimes mean is how they're perceived, though not always. But FI inferior is the source of their softness. Underneath that kind of rock steady exterior, they have this sort of gooey, soft, vulnerable interior with their FI inferior. Related here is also raw humanity. Now, this is sort of a bias for FE users, as I am one, and this is sort of my perspective of the ESTJ. But if you're an FE user, if you can connect with an FI inferior, it's like it's this kind of FI that you won't get anywhere else, and it's very unique in how it expresses its principles and its values, and it provides a lot of interesting insights about what's good or bad, what's worth investing in. So they just give this, even though they're very vulnerable here, they give this interesting look basically into the psychology of FI, into the philosophy of FI. Okay, so what they also give, I put investment here. Okay, if they choose to invest, they give a lot to people. They give a lot to their work. I put SI enables investment. One way that they do give is when it's aligned with their duty. The ESTJs who learn how to use their inferior on a consistent basis usually align it with their duty. What do I believe is right? What is my duty? What does my past experience tell me? That collective conversation, what they grab from that, allows their inferior to be expressed with more investment. And when they invest a lot into people and institutions and whatever pursuit that they have. Now, what does FI inferior need in return? Okay, I'm going to come back to this first one, but hold space is the big one. I kind of talked about that already a bit, but the inferior is very fragile. Okay, it's very vulnerable. If it senses threat, it tends to withdraw or lash out. It's hard to help people use their inferior in this safe, unthreatening space where they still feel the desire for exploration. Okay, this last one here is I find kind of interesting. It's permission to judge, ? I was hanging out with an ESTJ, that was a while ago, a few years ago, and we were talking about this ESTJ was getting into like real estate and business and wanted to sell some stuff, and I was kind of joking with with them about, like eating up the entire real estate market and letting all the peasants starve. And that was kind of, a dark joke. But this ESTJ kind of connected with that in that moment, and I think it gave them permission to just express a little bit of that FE demon, which tends to not to respect people, especially if they don't have a good work ethic. So this is kind of a fragile thing to go down this road, but I think the FI inferior just also needs permission to sound off in ways that may not be flattering or may not be quote unquote good, but recognize that a lot of the judgment that FI inferior may express oftentimes just comes from anxiety. Like they're very anxious about their own worth and feeling unworthy and unimportant, that they often will project that onto others, and to express it, it just needs to come out. So if you can hold space for them and give them permission to say some things that are not very flattering, you will finally start to connect with the real person. And I'm not saying that the real person is someone who judges everyone else for this or that, but it's almost like they need to exhale that part of them, to just let it out. And then after that, then they can talk through and work through some other things. Okay, lastly here, the critic, SE Critic. SE Critic is can be very harsh about other people's work ethic. They're very harsh with themselves about meeting the performance expectations, about being presentable, things like that. So the critic needs a combination of affirmation and evidence. Remember that the critic is a hidden idealist. They have this very spiky, thorny exterior with this very fragile interior. And within that interior is this kind of idealism of hoping more people cared about working hard, hoping more people cared about being reliable, as the ESTJ does, hoping people cared more about solving their own problems, okay, and working towards something meaningful. Yes, ESTJ, if more people cared about that, the world would probably be a better place. Affirming the mission, yes, critic, and in this case, SE Critic, the world would be a better place if people took your mission more seriously. And then evidence, demonstrating evidence to the critic that you care about the details, that you care about your own performance, that you care about getting better and working towards things, and that you're reliable. That's the kind of the quickest way to connect with SE Critic. Now, I'm going to start with what they need to receive first in order to, the context of this conversation is kind of how do you get past and connect with the critic. First, it's caring about doing it right, okay? If you're like cutting corners and slacking off on a job and missing out on the details, that critic is not going to be happy with you, because the ESTJ goes through detailed, systematic outcome pains to make sure it's done right. And if you're just cutting corners, they're going to have a very rough time with that. Second is humility to improve. Okay, so this is another part of the critic. They're not always super judgmental. I know the way I describe it, it sounds like that. They're not always like that. The critic, I think, cares more about you being aware that the mission's important, even if you're not measuring up to the critic's ideal standards. So if you can demonstrate yourself to be a teachable person, self-aware in your ability, asking questions about how do I get better, letting them educate you, particularly if they are an expert or a teacher in that space, that also gives them opportunity for some authority. But mainly here, it demonstrates to them your willingness to be shaped, to be built up, to go through the process to be stronger. They're basically testing you for what they believe is your good or bad character. So showing humility to improve is very, very important to SE Critic. We talked about details already, being committed to the details, and also just kind of your general presentation. They have a hard time if you're like unkept, like respecting you, and that's kind of on them too, but it's also important to know if you're going to go to an interview with an ESTJ interviewee, it's probably smart to put a little extra effort into being wrinkle-free and clean shaven, etc. So lastly here, for what they need to receive, this is more of a challenge towards them when they do this. Challenge shallow judgment, okay? ESTJs have this thing, and they hold themselves to the standard too of, okay, I need to look the part, and I need to present myself in a way that's professional, that's important, that's reliable, all this or that stuff. They often reject their own humanity and their own vulnerability. They often don't know how to handle their own feelings of unworthiness, or this sort of desire to express themselves, but this fear of doing it. So because they do that to themselves, they often do that to other people. They may judge or dismiss people because SE Critic, because extroverted sensing, they don't look the part, right? Or something's off in how they're dressed. They can challenge and demonize people with FE Demon because SE Critic is perceiving that they're not up to the critic standard. So challenging them when you feel that you're the brunt of that, or if they're doing that to other people, that the critic in general, I would say, responds pretty well to being challenged, particularly when you provide some evidence or some consequential awareness of, or just calling out their assumptions. Because when they're judging someone, they're also making a TE assumption. And if you can target both the critic and the hero at the same time, they're more likely to become aware of it quicker. Okay, what do the ESTJs give with the critic? Doing it right. Okay, they hold themselves to an extreme standard with SE Critic, also with TE Hero, of doing it right, of getting better, of meeting the expectations, getting to a point where they can reliably do it. Okay, reliable execution is the standard of SE Critic, and as I said, they go through painstaking effort to make sure that they are reliable, and they hope that you have at least like a third of that amount of drive so that you can be reliable to some extent. Okay, so they do it right. Self-care, they take care of themselves a lot. You will often not meet an ESTJ who doesn't take care of themselves, and if they're not, there's usually some other thing going wrong with their life, or like some kind of crisis. They go through a lot of work for their appearance, for their health, for going to bed on time, for sleeping, for exercising. Not all those things, some ESTJs are grinders and don't sleep, but in general, they take care of themselves, they take care of their body, they take care of the things that enable them to consistently perform and show up. ESTJs, I've found, tend to age well because of this. And then last is just strength, or you could say endurance, or durability, or reliability. SE Critic, in its judgment, in its harshness, but also in its wisdom, builds themselves up, challenges the ESTJ to expose themselves to new experiences with SI parent to become stronger. They also often cycle back to being in positions of authority, perhaps like a sergeant or a drill sergeant or a teacher or a coach, and they build up strength in others through SE Critic. This is one of their secret abilities here, particularly when it comes to giving back to people. They challenge, they build up the strength that they have into other people through SE Critic. All right, guys, that's the needs of the ESTJ. I hope you guys enjoyed. I really like ESTJs. They've grown on me over the years. I think they're, like many of the types, misunderstood. I think they're more overly judged than misunderstood, and I think the inferior here is the key to kind of connecting with who they are underneath that either rough and or shiny exterior that they may have. So thanks for stopping by, guys, and I'll see you around. Bye.